Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rotor Talk Live, Season 3, Episode 39, Fimi X8 SE 2020, Zino 2 updates, and sunset tips from the Jedi Master himself, Mr. Ron Braun. Marcus is here. How are you this evening, Marcus?
Doing quite well, Bill. Doing just fine. Just got in from an evening walk, but it may not have been advisable because the smoke is so thick out there you can cut it with a knife.
Well, that's something that I wanted to kind of start out with. We're gonna get to that here in a second. I gotta get myself together here. All right. But the very first thing that I wanted to share was 3 years ago today was we had an event happen in the family, and I'm trying to get this to come up here. Yeah, I got it now. 3 years ago today, I was up in Ohio, and it was one of those top 10 moments of your life. My daughter got married 3 years ago today, and I want to congratulate her and my son-in-law, who my son-in-law faithfully watches the channel because he is hoping and praying that my daughter will bless him with a drone for Christmas this year. He's keenly interested, very much astute. Very much he is very knowledgeable about them, and of course I'm trying to flip to another picture here. That's probably my favorite picture ever with my daughter, walking her down the aisle. It was outside. And then of course there's another picture here, that one too. Having my granddaughter on top of all this is just an incredible blessing. So I want to start out by wishing them a very happy anniversary. Now, we're going to get right away to news. And, one of the things right now, and Marcus and I were kind of talking about this ahead of time, is the hurricane situation. And I'd be remiss, number one, not to talk about it. So we're going to spend a few minutes on this. Now, according to the latest from the National Weather Service Hurricane Center, it's due to impact the Mobile, Alabama area anytime between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning. And it is right now, it is still a Category 2 hurricane, and it's moving very slowly, which is not a good thing because that means it's going to be a prolonged period of rain, which they're talking anywhere, they're 20 to 30 inches of rain. And they are forecasting 7 to 10 feet of water coming through the beaches around Mobile, Alabama. So please, if you are in the area right there, please heed what your local government is advising you to do. Do not be a hero. Do not be a cowboy. Get out of there if you can get out of there. If you need to shelter in place, please do so safely and responsibly. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of you. And on top of that, it's like, is if 2020 isn't bad enough, okay, take a look up here. There are 4 other tropical systems already in the South Atlantic that you can see that are outlined here. Vicky is one, Teddy is another, Paulette is another, and it's just, unfortunately, when you move down to Florida, you get familiar with the National Hurricane Center in a hurry, and you be prepared. And that's one of the things that we are prepared. We always have extra water on hand. I have enough batteries to probably supply batteries for a third world country. Flashlights. I have an emergency locator beacon. You get prepared when you move down here. We have storm shutters that need to go up when it's time to do that. So again, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in the path of Sally. Please heed what your local government and officials are doing and telling you to do. I think it's paramount, and I think most people will pay heed to that. All right. We'll talk about some drone related things now. And, I know, Marcus and Ron's going to join us here in a little bit, by the way. I know Marcus, Ron, and myself all have Apple products. Ron and Marcus, I know, have both the the iPhone and the Apple Watches, and I'm sure, yeah, and Ron has a MacBook, so you know, and I have an iPad Mini 4, so we're all familiar with that. Well, you know, there was a little event today. Apple had an event. Now they didn't feature the new iPhone, and you know, the first thing that I did was find out when they're going to be having that. They're talking it's going to be October 13th, 14th ish, kind of a time frame. So stay tuned for that. But I want to go ahead and pull this article up. And the reason I want to spend some time talking about this is, you know, like myself, I know both Ron and Marcus, they use their iPhones, you know, for flying their drones. You know, I use my iPad as well for that. So, you know, that's why I want to spend a few minutes on this, because I think it's important enough that we find out, you know, what's going on with this, you know, what Apple's introducing and how it can impact us as drone flyers in the drone community. Now, they did launch a new Apple Watch 6 and an SE watch, which is basically a rundown version of that. And you know, you're free to check that out. But I want to talk a little bit about, you know, there's a new Apple One, and there's an iPad Air launch on there. And then I'm not going to go ahead and go through the video, but there's some new specs on that Apple iPad 8th generation and iPad Air. It's a new A12 Bionic processor, and it's a 10.9-inch liquid Retina display with long-awaited updates like Touch ID via the power button. It's a new 5-nanometer A14 Bionic chip with 6 cores and a 4-core GPU. It'll ship October, starting at $599. And it's going to have a new iPad operating system here. And you know, the iPad 2020 is starting out at $329. The iPad Air is starting out at $2020. What do you think about this, Marcus?
Well, so as far as the Apple Watch, it was very incremental. You know, it'll do blood ox now, which is kind of cool. But you know, I got this other little device here that costs about, I don't know, you can get them on Banggood for about $15. That'll do the same thing. It's still handy to have it right on your watch, and then of course it will combine those to give you a good picture of your health. And more, you know, we use it for health tracking, for exercise and so forth. And so that's important. The other thing that was interesting to me is that they're gonna have a native app for sleep tracking now, which you know, I've used for some time. There's aftermarket apps, so it's kind of handy to track that stuff, and it helps. The iPads were more significant, that they got some upgrades, but it, you know, then they're, one of the things that people miss about Apple is a lot of their revenue now is service revenue from their services, and then bundling that package together, I think, is going to give them a lot of power in the marketplace. A lot of power. So
well, yeah, you're definitely right about those service packages, because you know, there's such a thin margin of profit on you know, on their hardware, in you know, selling these packages and having them renewable annual, you know, that's incredible. Also, you know, the data plans that they have, because I have a data plan to back up data from my iPad. I mean, you know, it's minuscule to me. I pay like $3.99 a month. But, you know, and to me, that's, you know, that's negligible. That's something I can easily afford, you know, but you multiply that out times how many millions of people, and you can see why they're one of the largest companies in the world. And they're smart. I mean, they are really smart with this, Marcus. They really are.
And their top package that gives you music, news, the Apple TV, and I can't remember what all else. Their new exercise thing that they've come out with is like their top of the line package is $29.95 a month. Well, that's pretty reasonable.
Oh yeah, I mean, that kind of a price. Yeah, anybody can afford things like that. Before I forget, Ray Kelly, excellent friend of the channel, who won the polo shirt in my raffle. Well, you know, it's like, God bless you, Ray. I'm going to call you out right now. Ray sent me, he's part of, it's called America's Finest Foundation, supporting cops and kids. I want to see if we can get a close up of this. He sent me this hat this week. And Ray, you know, literally my hat's off to you for this and for this excellent organization that that you're a part of and for all that you do. And Ray, you know, I also have to call out as well to you. Thank you for your service as one of New York's finest. We owe you a debt of gratitude we can never pay. So I want to thank you about that. I also want to thank you for sharing a very personal story about 9/11 and, you know, the impact and your son that day. That was just absolutely positively incredible. So Ray, hats off to you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We love you. I love each one of you out here, but I want to give a special shout out to Ray because this is something that's special and it's going nowhere. Okay. This is going to be in my collection here. So Ray, again, thank you so much for that. All right. Wanted to get that. You know, the other thing, one of the other things, and this has kind of gone under the wire, and I was telling Marcus a little bit about this before we started, is there's some issues going on with DJI right now. And, you know, it's like, you know how you find out things by accident? This is one of the things I found out totally by accident today, okay? And I was on Twitter, like I always am, you know, and I'm going through things, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I find this, and I'm like, okay, I think this is probably kind of newsworthy here. So we're gonna spend a couple of minutes on this. Now, you know, as I've told all of you, the best method to get a hold of DJI is through Dji Support on Twitter. They're very responsive, especially if you send them just send them a message flat out. And obviously, like I've said before, guys, you know, if you use your language and choose your words carefully and be articulate with them and don't go over the top with 4-letter words, you know, you'll get a positive response. Okay. Now, what the issue is okay. The guy says, I'm an owner of a Mavic 2 Pro. Since the update on Android 11, I can't use my drone anymore. Could I get my money back for the time I can't fly my drone? I paid for it. Are you joking, DJI? What have you done the last months during the Android 11 beta? Okay. Now, DJI's response, sorry for the inconvenience caused. The issue you reported is caused by the fact that the current DJI Go 4 app is not compatible with the newly launched official version of Android 11, which was released on September 9th. DJI, like other third-party software providers, is working hard to release an app version that is compatible with Android 11 as soon as possible to minimize impact on your daily use. DJI Go 4 is expected to have a version released on September 18th to support Android 11. Marcus, I had no idea, okay, about this. This is just something, it snuck in under the radar for me. And I'll tell you why, okay? Because if I'm flying my Mavic 2 now, guess what I fly it with, okay? I'm not using my, you know, I'm not using my
controller. Sure.
I'm using my smart controller.
Sure.
Okay. And that's, you know, that's independent. I mean, it's still Android, but it's still independent of that. And there's no issues with that. So, you know, it's just like this one just like went right here. I didn't even notice. And it also affects the current Ronin gimbal as well, too. You know, a lot of things.
That was the gimbal issue, huh?
Yeah, that's what they were saying. That's what they were saying. Now, I'm not sure if it's the one that's going to be released, but somebody mentioned about the current one. So I'm not sure if this is playing into the issue regarding why and I know you guys talked a little bit about this last night. You know, why the new Ronin gimbal hasn't been released yet, and I'm thinking it's because of this. I think it's this incompatibility with Android 11. I think that's the issue.
Could very well be.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it only makes sense. I mean, this kind of ties that in together. And I wanted to make all of you aware of this, number one, and number two, that there is a date. I mean, DJI's given us a date, and today's the 15th, so that's 3 days from now. I think that's 18th. Yeah, the 18th is on Friday. So with it coming out on Friday, we're gonna be good as far as that's concerned. So that's a big relief for everybody. I know for me it is. Because, you know, if for some reason I want to go out and use my phone when I'm flying my Mavic 2, you know, or my Phantom 4 Pro, you know, I'll be able to do that. Now, you know, more often than not, like if I fly my Phantom 4 Pro, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be using a smart app. But if I don't, I'm going to be using my iPad, which has, I'm not dependent on it because it's iOS. And that's always, I think it's always nice. I think, Marcus, I think one of the things for me, and one of the things I can suggest when you start to get into this hobby, is you should have some kind of Apple product to use as a display device, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad. What do you think? Would you agree with me?
I would certainly agree for DJI.
Yeah.
No question about it. There are some drones that they say they fly better on Android. So, but for certainly, DJI seems to be. Like I said, we talked about that a little bit last night on Drone Nation, and you remember, Bill, a couple of years ago, there was a ton of rumors that Apple was interested in buying DJI, and who knows how valid they were or not. But it might, if it had happened, it might have saved us a lot of the grief we're going through now with regard to security issues and things like that. That's causing DJI so many issues right now.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, and and I'll take a side note, and this is not a political commentary, but the president had talked about TikTok and about it being a Chinese-owned company, okay? And he wanted to see if a U.S. company will buy it. Well, it looks like Microsoft was out of the bidding, but it looks like Oracle is going to buy it. And it's going to bring about 20,000 jobs to the United States because they want it based in the United States. So, translate that to Apple buying DJI, that would be incredible. I'm still like encouraging Tim Cook in my weekly call with him to think about it, because I think it would make a big difference. I love that. I just absolutely love this communications that we have with all these world leaders here.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely hilarious. Well, we're going to move on here.
Hey, Bill, can I stop for 1 second?
Go for it.
We've forgotten. There's somebody in the chat here that we need to congratulate, and that's Michael Wright. He won that Mavic 2 Pro at Spin Up on Saturday. So congratulations, Michael. I know we talked about that a little bit last night, but I just think that's awesome.
Marcus, thank you for, and well, first of all, we need to congratulate Marcus because he won a Yeti tumbler at Spin Up. Okay. It's like, all these names get read off and I'm like, who's that? And who's that? And who's that? It's like, well, then I realized Kelly has 160,000 subscribers. So yeah, there's probably a lot of people we didn't hear. But, when I heard Michael's name, I was so happy. I was happy. First of all, I was very happy for you, Michael. Second of all, I'm like, it's somebody that I really know and I interact with. And I think that's double cool. So, our heartiest congratulations with that. Anxious to see some video from you with that. I know you'll have a lot of fun with it. I mean, it's just been stellar. I can't say enough about that. Fimi, I was telling Marcus before we started tonight, today was the first day that I haven't had rain here in at least a week. Okay. I mean, it's been like an all day rain, almost, steady. And a lot of it is because when these tropical storms move through the Gulf, it stirs stuff up and it hits us. And like I said, we're about 6 miles from the coast. So, we'll get the impact down here. So yeah, it's been like that. Our grass, it's like we're getting our grass cut once a week. I mean, it needs it because we're getting so much rain right now. And previously we hadn't been getting rain. So, I mean, you take the good with the bad. Well, today was the first day I could have flown, but I worked today. So that kind of didn't equate. And now, sundown is right at, a little bit before 8 each night. And tonight wasn't going to be a possibility because I had to prep for the show tonight. So frustrating. Anyway, what I wanted to do was, and I want to set up this clip, and I want Marcus to share some of his stuff recently because of his experience with the Fimi X8 SE. A lot of what we talk about with this drone, all right, We talk a lot about the horizon tilt, and there's no horizon tilt in this, but I want you to focus for a second here. This was during sundown when this clip happened, and I'm going to go ahead and set that up. Now, I took a little bit of a different pattern here with this flight. Well, no, really, it's the same. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of another clip. But I took, I took the same pattern, but it's recognizes that it's sundown, and my house faces west. So whenever I take off, I fly due west. So that's going to go ahead and set this clip up here. Let me get it up on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and start playing it here.
That thing's always in the way, isn't it, Bill?
It is. It is. It's a pain in the butt. Now, one of the things I want you to notice here, is how dark it is. Now, realize, you can tell where the sun is in this position. And now the settings, it's set at 4K 30. I have it set on high video quality, and it's on HDR. So just to let you guys know that. Now, I want you to see something here. And what I do is, I do a 180 and I come back. Now, you can see as you get up to the shoreline here, you can see some of the detail become very apparent. And you can see how clear it is. Now, we're going to flip around here. And you can see the difference, okay? A lot of this is because of the ambient light out here. And I know the Jedi Master, who's going to join us shortly, could probably best be able to talk about this here. But the detail on this, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. And the thing that I want to stress, and I try to stress this to a lot when I interact with people from the Fimi group, by the way, which is a great group. And if you have a Fimi X8 SE 2020 and you haven't joined it, please do so, because there's a lot of really good discussion in this group. Okay. The detail here, to me, I think is just outstanding. I could not be more pleased with that. Okay. And realize, when it's, you can tinker with the settings. I could have gone into post. I could have done some things, with adjusting the brightness and the color and everything, but I didn't. I wanted to be realistic, and I wanted to show you guys. Actually, this was in my first flight video of the new Fimi X8 SE 2020. I wanted to give you the whole screen. I didn't want to have the app up there with it too. I wanted you to see this as it is naturally. For what you get, and I know Marcus and I and Ron have talked about this, okay, for that price point right now, and I know, Fimi's having $50 off, or, Banggood's having $50 off, which brings that under the $400 price point right now. I mean, it's kind of a steal. Wouldn't you agree, Marcus?
Yeah, so you can get it for $379 from the U.S. warehouse right now. Up until just a couple of days ago, it was $359. I think even yesterday, they just quit that last discount, and you were able to pick it up for $359, which really is a steal. Now, let's put that into context. I'm looking at this picture right now, and I see a little tilted horizon, and of course, some of us have had issues with. I'm having issues with white balance on mine. I flew it yesterday and had better success. I don't know if this is it, Bill, but I used the H.264 codec instead of the H.265. I don't know. It also was a really hazy day because of the smoke, so there wasn't a lot of differences in the light, but the video looked a lot better than I've seen in a long time off of that drone. But I'm still having horizon tilt issues. The other thing that's going on with mine, and honestly, most people probably wouldn't even notice this, but I do, because I synchronize my screen recorder and whatever camera I'm using for narration and takeoffs and landings and the drone in the air, I synchronize all three of those videos. And what's happening with the video that's coming off the SD card on the Fimi is it gradually falls behind as it goes through the timeline. And anybody out there, if you know a solution to that, what could be causing that? I've run into that issue on toy drones before, on those very little cheap toy drones. I've never seen it on a drone of this caliber. But to make the point that you were making, Bill, even with all of that, for $359 or $379, it's a very capable product that will take reasonable video. The highlights to me of the Fimi are the flight controls. It really flies nice. It's not what we are used to with DJI, but it's close. It's right there. It's a really nice flying product, straight and true, handles real well, very precise, and it's also what I would call a feature-rich drone too. They include a lot of features in the product yet answer Lauren's question, same frame rate they are, Lauren. I always shoot in 30 frames per second, and what's the reality is 29.9, whatever it is. So yeah, on all of them, Lauren. So I really don't know why that happens. But in any case, it is, if somebody, listen, if somebody walked up to me tomorrow and said, I'm going to buy my first drone, what should I buy? I'd tell them the Mavic Air 2 if you got $800. But if all you have is $400, I'd probably tell them the Mavic Mini. But if they're going to fly in windy conditions, if they know they're going to be flying in windy conditions and they absolutely want 4K for whatever reason or so forth, the Fimi is absolutely a good alternative.
I could not agree more. And see, for me, and it's not a secret, and I talked about it. My Mavic Mini has been, has departed, like Elvis has left the building. My Mavic Mini has left the building, and there was a reason for that. Okay, number one, I haven't been using it. Okay, and number two, and this is more important, every time I would go up, one of the things that you're faced with when, you're privy to a lot of great videography and photography down here in Florida with the sun out. It really lends itself to a lot of different creative shots. But one of the things with the heat and the humidity and everything, and if you understand where wind comes from, the definition of wind is the uneven heating of the Earth's surface. Okay, and here's Mr. Ron Braun. How are you,
gentlemen? Sorry I'm late tonight. I just got back. I was out flying the Skydio tonight.
Well, you were doing due diligence, so there is absolutely no problem with that. Okay.
And look, and see, look, I'm not putting you on. Look what's right here.
There he is. There he is with the Skydio tonight. Okay. And we're gonna be privy to some great footage from that probably in a day or two, I am sure. But continuing about the Mavic Mini, for me, down here with the wind, I would take it up, and invariably every single flight with the Mavic Mini for a period of a couple of months, I would get a high wind warning. Okay, and it's like, I could take up any other drone that I have, and literally any other drone, including the Fimi, and not have to worry about that. Like, it wouldn't be an issue. But for the Mini, it is an issue. And and I also got to thinking about, and I know, Marcus, you said, your time, where you almost didn't get it back, use your air, I won't say use your air, but you know what, with that, even knowing as conscious as you are, okay, with that, and Ron and myself, I don't want to take a chance. I don't want, because it's like every time I was taking it up, I was getting that warning, and it's frustrating and annoying, and you ignore it, and then it comes back a second time, and then it comes back a third time, and it's just like, you better not ignore it. You better bring it back, okay? Because and Marcus did a great thing in that video. I mean, he got the presence of mind to be able to find a spot and land it because it wasn't going to come all the way back. So our hats off to Marcus.
That may have been Marcus's greatest moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
No. Now stop.
That should get over 100,000 views, Ron. Don't you think?
That was
right. That emergency landing at a remote site. Marcus was cool, calm, and collected. He
Absolutely.
was definitely the pilot in command up there.
Remote pilot in command like none other. Okay, none other.
He's kind of like, what's the name of the airplane captain in New York that landed the airliner in the Hudson River?
Sully.
All the people.
Sully, Captain Sully.
Marcus is like the Sully of our world here.
Here's the problem. It was the pilot, though, that screwed up in the first place, flying it with the wind out and then against the wind on the way back. So, yeah, I'm going to say.
Well, you put yourself in a pickle, but you got yourself out.
I did, yeah.
And to Bill's point, I want to, Bill, this is good here. Before we leave this, to Bill's point, the Mini, I mean, it flies the same in the wind as it always did, but they did a firmware update around, I think, the end of April that added some good feature to it, but it also put that constant wind warning in, and it kind of ruined the little Mini for many people because, like Bill was saying, that wind warning, it just you knock it away, it comes right back, and for a while it used to even vibrate my phone like every time the wind warning came up, and it really kind of ruined the experience a little bit. But I've learned a couple of tricks, Bill. Keep it low. If you keep it under about 75 feet, you won't see that wind warning pop up quite as much.
That's a good tip, Ron, and thank you for passing that on to everybody because I know that that's something that I see a lot out there in the Mavic Mini group. People are, that's a good tip for people to know, to be able to do something like that. Now we're gonna, Marcus has, as I've said before with the Zino 2, okay, it's been a tale of two drones for Ron and for Marcus. Okay, they've had completely different experiences with this. Ron really has not experienced anything that Marcus has had, and vice versa. Okay,
except for the lens flare issue.
Except for that lens flare issue, it's like night and day for them. Okay, now recently Marcus put out a great video about the Zino 2, and you had some success with it. Marcus, can you elaborate on this for us?
Yeah, so I'm always comparing the Zino 2 with the Fimi X8 SE because they're very similar price points, and they're just kind of natural competitors. So it's a natural comparison. And I started having issues with a number of issues with the Zino, unstable in low flight, which you can work with that. But the straw that broke the camel's back was I started losing FPV with it. And so I replaced the ribbon cable. A lot of people have had that issue, so they replaced that ribbon cable. And I did that, but I still had the issue. The final solution was putting a SanDisk Extreme Pro 90 megabit write speed card in it, which was weird because it flew fine with a Samsung card in there at first, but then all of a sudden that card wasn't fast enough. Anyway, that solved that problem. And when I was out with the Fimi, I had all kinds of problems with the Fimi the other day, but the Zino 2 flew just fine. And the other thing that was interesting about that, Bill, was I had connection issues for the first time with the Fimi. I had some connection issues, flew the same route with the Zino 2, and it had no problem at all. So anyway, it was one of those things where I landed the Zino 2, and I was really happy with it, and the Fimi not so much that time.
Well, it's very interesting because I know a lot of people have chronicled their experiences with Hubsan and with Fimi, and I gotta make a comment about that. it's like trying to get a hold of Hudson customer service. It's like you'd have better luck getting a hold of someone in mainland China than than getting a hold of Hudson actual customer service. Conversely, Fimi customer service is so easy. They always respond overnight. There's never been a problem with that. And as I detailed in one of my videos, it's like, I spent some time one evening, going over how to deal with customer service and, my experience with Fimi. And, and when you give them everything you want and you do it in a polite, kind way, when you're doing that, it makes a lot of difference. It really does.
Bill, this is no defense of Hudson at all, because they should have better customer service. But more than just being somebody answers a phone or email or a Twitter and says something nice back, they should address issues. How many people have hit up Fimi customer service about the Horizon? Unlevel Horizon issue going all the way back to 2018, and yes, they may reply to you, but they're not actually doing anything about it. Is kind of the the big thing here. Do you agree, Marcus?
Man, I'm telling you, it has probably been one of the single most frustrating things for me with the Fimi, like you said, Ron, going all the way back to the 2018 version. And I was flying it yesterday and was still having tilted horizon at different times. I just don't get it. There can be no excuse for that. You can fly toy drones now that have a flat horizon. Why can't Fimi get that figured out?
I agree. I mean, that's a good point, Ron. You can, and here's the thing, and I can say this from looking at in the group, because I know a lot of people have talked about that. And there's a gentleman from Australia, I believe, he showed the trick using getting a level out and, getting into the fine tuning the gimbal calibration, and it worked for me. And then I did a firmware update, and then it didn't work after the firmware update. Now that was with my first one. I haven't had to do it. And I just noticed when I showed the video before Ron came on, with the Fimi X8 SE, as Marcus pointed out, it had a little bit of one up there. So I'm going to pay attention to that next time I take that off. Doing this trick, it does help when you recalibrate it. But, I'm of the opinion, like Ron and Marcus, if there's a solution out there, it should already be in place. I mean, having had this drone out for at least a solid 2 years with thousands of users out there and thousands of feedbacks about it, there definitely should be some kind of a solution. It can't be that hard.
Yeah, even if it was a mechanical issue rather than the software one, it should have been corrected in a new version of the 2020.
Yeah, really. I mean, what's it take to, maybe beef up the gimbal a little bit, or maybe it's who knows what. Maybe the dampeners on it need to do something different with that. Who knows?
Yeah, a good point, Bill. I mean, like for instance, the new Osmo OM4. Sorry, I keep saying OM4. I mean, they increased the strength of the gimbal motors in there, and it could support larger phones with no problems at all. Mark showed a product here. How comes the Fimi gimbal can't handle a little teeny tiny camera?
Yeah.
Ron, I was trying to make you jealous, Ron, by showing you my new case.
Oh, you got a new case then?
Yeah.
Is that the OM3 case?
Well, no, it's about a $12 case off of Amazon, and it fits it really very well.
It looks like similar to a case I have for one of my bigger gimbals. Good. Yeah. Well, maybe you could drop that link down below for all us poor OM4 owners who are caseless right now. But actually, I just stick it in the bag and I stick it in my general camera bag. So actually, a lot of times I wouldn't use the case because it takes up too much room inside the bigger case I'm putting in it. Sorry, folks, for hijacking the show and turning into the OM4 show. We can return to our regularly scheduled Hudson and Fimi programming now. Hey, real quick, guys. I saw Bill put up the screen. The Hubsan Zino 2 got a app update today. Has anybody looked at it? Is it side by side with a firmware update, or is it just the app update?
I haven't looked at it. Review, Marcus.
Okay.
Which
The Zino 2 app update that came out today, is that accompanied by a firmware update, or is that just the app update?
I didn't know one came out, Ron. So
yeah, I saw it this morning. I didn't get a chance to get the Zino 2 out today and even see if there's a firmware that go along with it. But it did say it had bug fixes in it, Marcus.
Well, so Ron, you might have something for me to do tomorrow then.
You may have a project tomorrow.
Might have a project. So before we get off that subject, so one of the issues that I have with the Zino 2 is you look at anybody's video with the Zino 2. Go online, Google Zino 2, and look at people's video that they post. And I guarantee you that somewhere in their video, you're going to see micro shakes of that gimbal along the line. Often when the drone is descending, sometimes at high-speed flight. I can almost forgive the high-speed flight because a lot of drones have issues in sport mode, but the Zino 2 more than most. Just like the dang tilted horizon on the Fimi, it drives me nuts.
Marcus, a couple quick questions. I know you got your good rant going here. I guess question number one would be, does the Zino 2 have like kind of a cinematic or a slow mode in it where maybe it wouldn't do it in the cinema mode, or does it?
And I think that's what they call it. What do they call it on the Zino? They call it film mode, I believe.
Film mode.
So okay. That three-way switch on the controller.
I wonder if that would help with the micro, because you never know when you're going to get the micro shakes. You could be flying along great, and then the micro shakes come out of no place. So I don't really know if that's the answer. But back to for Bill, I think as close as the Horizon issue for the Fimi is. Now, this is more related to the 2020 and not the 2018. Somehow they've messed up the color gambit in the Fimi. Marcus showed it all very well in a video where he changed the white balance to things that you shouldn't, like you shouldn't use. What did you use outdoors or whatever? He used the indoor setting outdoors to get it to not be so kind of yellowy brown looking or whatever, and put a little more blue in. What mode was that?
That was fluorescent mode. But I got a bigger question, Ron. Who the heck flies their Fimi inside where they need a fluorescent mode?
Yeah, but why do they have to add two modes, fluorescent, incandescent? Their mode you would see on a regular camera for indoor lighting. Why would you even put them on a drone?
On a drone, yeah.
Maybe if it was like a teeny tiny drone, you would fly inside. But who do you know is flying the Fimi inside for any other reason outside making a YouTube video where they get a bunch of looks? It's big, it's noisy. It doesn't have bumpers with it or whatever. I mean, you could do a little damage if for any reason the downward sensors went a little haywire in the house.
Well, even with that downward sensor, Ron, it's like from having experienced flying the big drones in the house before. Okay, like I had the original Mavic Pro in the house, and because
not a good idea.
That dark floor. Okay, even with the sensors. It doesn't recognize it, and it just goes all over the place. I still have a divot in the wall, and I'm here. I'm alive.
You won't tell anybody, Bill.
Tell you that, okay? Valerie knows it, and I'm still alive. So my wife really loves me as far as that's concerned.
Now it made a lot more sense when you had the Mini inside, and you had the what do we call the bumpers for it? What's that called?
The
prop guards, yeah.
Prop cage. What a big prop. When you had that big prop cage on it, and it's a small drone anyways, and it's the sensor received to hold it pretty steady for you. That makes a lot more sense. Now, if the Mini maybe had an incandescent or something like that on, which it doesn't, because the Mini only has you'd set to Kelvin manually. But anyhow, we're making jokes here. But the Fimi 2020, this firmware update or Marcus's drone, maybe somebody else has a Fimi where their colors are perfect, but Marcus's something screwed up with the colors on that, and it's something that can easily be fixed by a firmware update. But they they need to do that just as much as they need to fix the Horizon.
See, I've been pretty pleased with the colors on mine. I really haven't had any issues with it. My only thing is in the clip that we showed right before you got on, was when, you're looking at when I'm flying west and it's like near sunset time. Okay. You can obviously tell, it's not a Mavic 2 Pro. It doesn't have that capability, that we absolutely, our jaws are.
It doesn't have the dynamic range you're looking for.
Exactly. It doesn't have dynamic range. Thank you, Ron. But conversely, I flipped around the drone, do a 180 and I'm flying back. And you can tell there's such a difference because, there's still plenty of light as I'm facing east. And as I'm, as that light is there, those colors are what they should be. Things look crisp and sharp and clear. I have no problem with the colors. And on the unit that was replaced, the previous unit that I had, still I didn't have any problems with the colors like Marcus experienced on his. And I want to say this, I know we're supposed to be talking about the Zino 2 here, but I get a lot of questions. People panic when they get, I've gotten one that was made in May. I have a May production date. I got one now. Mine has an August production date because it was obviously just built. One of the things that I caution people in the forums, and I want to let everybody know tonight is, okay, it can still have that May date and still be a good drone. Okay, what they basically do, all right, and it's this way with. Let's equate it to auto manufacturing. Okay, let's say you have a 2020 Toyota Corolla. And it's the LE model, and and it was built between this date and this date, and say it's eligible for a recall. Well, what they do is they also look at the serial numbers, okay, and it could be a batch of serial numbers from May of 2020 that are known to have had this issue, and good companies will compile those kind of lists. So, and I think, to be honest, I think that's exactly why, there's dozens of other people and some who are on the show will testify to this. It's almost immediately Fimi says, we're going to replace the drone for you. So I think it probably hit a serial range and said, okay, that was one we've known that'll have issues. We're just going to go ahead out and replace that.
Bill, you want to relate to the auto industry, so what you're saying, we should do a recall on certain ones made in May.
Yeah, really. I mean,
bring them into the dealer and get them serviced.
Well, and see, and I get a lot of this too, and I understand a lot of people's frustrations. You have to kind of go through hoops for them. You have to give them the logs, and then they ask you to fill out a form, and then you have to fill out that god-awful customs form for the post office. Oh, I still have a headache from that. I'm still taking Advil to take care of that headache.
I hate the customs forms.
Yeah. So, with the Zino 2, it's great to see Marcus having some success with it. That's one of the things I was real happy to see that, because I know he's been terribly frustrated with it. And I know if you were to ask him between the Zino 2 and the Zino 1, which one, I think it's a no-brainer for him. I think he'd take the Zino 1 all day long. Am I right, Marcus?
Oh, yeah.
When he made the video where he had to change the cable, the ribbon cable in the Zino 2 and go through all that, I mean, I understood his frustration. I understand he wanted to sell his drone that day, and I wouldn't have blamed him. But then, then all of a sudden it came out of no place and redeemed himself in the next video. But Bill, here's a question I want to ask you, because you want to bring it back to the Zino 2 here. You know how, like, in the days when we had the I'll go way back to the Phantom 4 Pro had the 4K 60. Everybody loved that drone because it had 4K 60. Then everybody hated the Mavic 1 because it did not have it. And then the Autel Evo came along. It had 4K 60. Every 4K 60 drone was held up on a pedestal. You know what I mean? It was seen as the be-all, end-all. But here's the Zino 2 comes out, the only budget drone in the world with 4K 60, and it doesn't get any cred for being the only drone anywhere in its price class to have 4K 60. Why is that? Why is it again? It was such a status to be 4K 60, and it did roll down to the Hubs 2. It's like nobody even cares that it does 4K 60.
Yeah, that's that Ron, you brought up an incredible question, because it's like, okay, DJI had it, Autel had it, and now Hubsan had it, and it's just like it was like crickets. Except for people who knew about the Hubsan, who were Zino fans, you know, it got very little press. You know, it's like, it's like some stories will get volumes of press, some will get almost none. Okay. And this is one that got almost none, and it should have gotten some. Okay. And here's the other thing too. And I don't think he's on tonight. G-Boy 185. He lives down in Miami. Great guy. Has the Phantom 4 Pro. You know, he's real big on that. You know, he and I had a pretty good chat. And one of the things is, you know, how often, and I think, you know, how often do you use 4K 60 in real world applications? Okay. You know, he said, you know, that's one of the things that people need. You know, people are like all about, oh yeah, it has 4K 60, and then slow it down. You know, how often do you use it? Think about the situations and think about the kind of video that you're going to shoot with 4K 60. You know, and
when would you use it, Bill?
Well, see, for me, let's say, here's a prime example. You know, I'll go to one of the busy intersections by where I live. All right, because if you're not shooting something, you have to be shooting something that's moving. Okay, otherwise, 4K 60, you might as well be on 1080p. Okay, if you're just going out for a flight over the lake and seeing some things, okay, you're not getting stuff. Okay, now last time I did 4K 60, I went down to the one intersection where I knew there were going to be a lot of cars coming through there. You know, and you can see where there's a lot of movement, 4K 60 is applicable. If there's not a lot of movement, it's not applicable.
So, like a lot of people in the chat are saying, and then Lauren makes a really good point here. It's for slow-mo, really. I mean, that's when you really are going to use it. Like you said, when you have a lot of movement, you want to slow it down. And then Lauren is saying that, hey, for waterfalls,
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
you can slow that down and
spot on for
look pretty good.
That's it. I mean, you know, for everyday normal use, no, it's you know, your 1080p is going to be fine. If you want to do 4K 30, that's fine. But 4K 60, you want to do it for something to slow it down. You want to, you know, if you know, like a busy intersection, if you want to slow things down in a busy intersection, or, you know, let's say you're filming some boats out on the bay and you want to slow things down with that, or a lot of birds are going by, you know, you want to slow things down. That's perfect for that kind of stuff.
You got all those extra frames, so it doesn't miss a beat or whatever in it. So that's a good answer, Bill. So I guess the final answer is, budget drone buyers aren't interested in slowing anything down. So they don't care about 4K 60.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think, although, like you said, it seems to be a magic number. Now, I always shoot in 30 frames per second, no matter what resolution it is. Now, there's other people that, well, I know Ron, knows this, that Hollywood uses 24 frames per second. And a lot of videographers, for that very reason, they shoot everything in 24 frames per second.
Yeah, I shoot 24 if the drone offers. The Mavic 2 Pro offers 24. Now, the Mini only offers 30, right? 30 and it doesn't have 20. Well, no, it did not have 24, but I think it does now.
Yeah, it does.
If the drone offers 24, I usually put it there. But you know why a lot of people do the 30? Because if they're putting the ND filter on and doing that, you know, double and trying to double the frame rate by putting the shutter.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's the double, whatever. And you can still, in your editor, you can still take that 30 frame per second. You can still render it out at 24 in post. And that actually does help you slow it down, because what Bill was saying about slowing down, Marcus and Bill, were not only do people talk about slowing down the 60K, but they think if they take 60K video, this is, some people think this, a lot of people think this, I should say, and then, you know, then they render it down to 24 in their editor. They think that smooths the video out and makes everything in a video seem a little smoother. And I'm not saying they're wrong, or I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying that's what a lot of people think they're doing. They're smoothing everything down by shooting at 4K 60 and rendering it down to 24 frames per second for the final output.
Oh, that's something I would never have thought of, Ron. That's
you brought that up. You know, I don't do that, but I'm not taking either side of the argument there or whatever. They, you know, Some people swear by it, some people don't. It's almost like a a political question or something like that.
So Ron, so I know that in Europe, 25 frames per second.
Right, and that's why you see a lot of 25 on the drones. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering why that is. I mean, is it just tradition, probably, huh?
Yeah. They're back in the old days. When 30 frames per second is a TV frame rate, and 24 is a movie. So I guess in Europe in the old days, their movies were 25, and the 30. I think they're even a little different from 30, but it's just nobody got together and standardized anything back in the old days, and they just picked different frame rates.
Yeah.
So got two more things.
Sorry to turn this into the frame rate show, Bill.
Well, Lauren makes another
get us back. Get this train back on the tracks, Bill.
Okay. Got a couple more things that I want to hit before we sign off tonight. Now, GoPro Hero 9, and I want to share my screen real quick. There is a new price. There is actually a price on it, and it's $439. Okay, this article came out on Drone DJ. You guys are welcome to look at it, and you guys know what the specs are. And I wanted to hit up the panel. What do you think of the price for this camera and the features that it offers?
So I want to make a quick point about that, Bill. So that $439, they extrapolated it out from the European price in euros. So that may not necessarily mean that we'll pay that price.
Okay.
They did the exchange rate and guess that could be. We don't know, but I just wanted to point that out. But I'd say that's probably for what you're getting there. That's probably a fair price.
Well, it's coming out tomorrow, so we'll know tomorrow one way or another. And and one of the things that before I get Ron's reaction here. Why are you guys talking about this? And I'm going to bring it back, to like when we talked about Apple products at this segment. A lot of us, I know Ron, I know Marcus, myself. I use my Osmo Action when I'm out there for a lot of B-roll for my drones. Especially I have it focused on my landing pad. And when I'm doing takeoffs and landings out there, and it's also if I'm doing a vlog, it is a perfect camera to do that because of the front-facing viewfinder. Guys, GoPro's caught up to Dji. I think that's the only thing that I can say, and I think a lot of people will agree with me that they caught up with DJI with, because their other specs are incredible. So what's your take on this, Ron?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, unless if you already own the Osmo Action. I mean, to upgrade to this, I mean, unless you really think you need some feature. I mean, like, do you really need 5K? Do you really need 20 megapixel pictures or whatever? If you already have the Osmo Action, you probably just stay with this. Now, I mean, it may be some home run feature they slip in there tomorrow that we don't know about, but just going by the specs we know, it's probably not a must upgrade if you're a Osmo Action user. Now, if you're a Hero 8 user and you desperately need that front-facing screen to do your vlogs and whatever, then it may be an upgrade. But I don't know how many people are excited about the 5K, just like we were excited about 8K and so on. But Marcus has some thoughts here. I don't want to ramble on.
Well, no, Ron, you made all really great points. But what if you just like gadgets? What if you like gadgets and you just want to get the cool camera?
Just if you want to have the world's greatest action camera, right? For until DJI comes out with their next release, the world's greatest action camera.
That's it.
1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I don't know. Let's take bets.
Hey, in all seriousness now, took me a second there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is cool that you can do now, and before eBay and Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp and things like that, you couldn't. It was, well, you could, but it wasn't as easy. When you want to upgrade, I'm willing to bet that I could sell my Hero 8 for at least $250, right?
Yeah.
So then maybe you're another couple $100 to upgrade to that latest and greatest. So it's like trading in a car. It's not as big of a jump as it used to be when you were
once you already have the most recent model, it's not that big of a jump. And Bill, let's bring this up. You mentioned about the DJI versus GoPro. This is what we need. Well, I would say GoPro, since they were the big guns. GoPro has a competitor that's right there with them. I mean, GoPro and DJI can go right at each other in the action camera market. If you could debate which one's better, but they're both good. But DJI needs that same type of competition in the drone.
There you go.
Whatever. They need a GoPro type thing that can come in there, and every time DJI puts out a great drone, the competitor can come in and top them. And we don't have that. We've never had that. Will we ever have that, Bill?
Yeah. See, Ron, you just hit that was the comment of the evening. Okay, there's nothing that's going to surpass that right now, because you just absolutely nailed it, because there really is nothing out there. There really is no competition. I mean, okay, I'll just, for argument's sake, I'll say this. Skydio is a niche drone. Okay, it's in its own particular niche. Okay, it's great for what it does. Okay. Is it where they can compete with DJI? Not even close right now. Okay.
And they may not even want to. They'll just take their big military money and make military type stuff.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing, I'm gonna Autel. Okay. Now, there's been a lot of good press about their latest release with the Evo 2. It does a lot of great things. And I'm not going to debate about the 6K, 8K kind of stuff and, the new thermal one. And I did see add-on that some people have had some cracks in the plastic in theirs, and they're getting them addressed by Autel. But all that was standing, okay, it's a great platform. Is it a competitor with DJI? It's like apples and oranges. There's really nothing to compare it to with DJI, okay? Are they maybe a step ahead of DJI at this point? Possibly, but like you said, it's like, I'll equate it back to this. For those of you in the chat, you probably know what I'm talking about. Bell Telephone back in the 1960s. Okay,
oh boy.
It was called
Wayback Machine.
This is the Wayback Machine with Mr. Peabody and Sherman here. Okay, it was the monopoly of monopolies, and it wasn't called AT&T, guys. Okay, it was called Bell Telephone. All right. And then the federal government came in, as they always do. Now, it was a monopoly. Okay. You bought, your telephone was from them. Everything was to them. Okay. They controlled everything, and they made a fortune. Well, the government came in and said, you're a monopoly. We need to break you up. So that's why you had Southern Bell and then Western Bell, and it broke it all up, and it got deregulated, which was a good thing, and it was better for us. Okay. Well, here's the thing. DJI is like that. There's no competition, really. I mean, to be honest with you. Okay. There's some great other drones out there, like I just talked about, but there's really no competition out there. And Ron's right. Until they get in competition is probably one of the best things in the world for them, because when they get this competition, it'll only force DJI to get better. Because here's an instance where, okay, GoPro saw what DJI did with the Osmo Action and said, you know what? We better put a front-facing camera on there on our next series, or we're going to be behind the curve. So they go ahead and do that, and they beef it up a little bit more, and they give it some things to make it its own flavor and make it unique, and it will sell well. Okay. Currently, the Osmo Action is $239, guys. Okay. That's a steal for what that camera does. That's a complete steal. All right. If I had a GoPro Hero 8, would I upgrade to a 9? Only if I didn't have an Osmo Action. Okay. If I want that front-facing viewfinder, I might do that. I might do what Marcus said, sell mine, maybe get $250 for it, and go ahead and spend the extra $200 and upgrade it. So,
yeah, we're just looking at maybe pictures aren't even real, but I keep remarking that it looks like the front-facing viewfinder on the Hero 9 is bigger than what's on the Osmo Action. It looks like it's a bigger.
It does look bigger, and it does look a little bit clearer. And I will say this, and I don't know if Marcus has noticed this or not. It's not as sharp as I think it could be. I think they need to do a firmware update, because in looking at that front viewfinder, it's good for when you're vlogging. But if you really are wanting to get some detail out of it, it doesn't have a lot of details. Okay?
The other thing that I'll add, Bill, is there's a little bit of lag in it. I know initially there was a lot of lag, and they corrected it, but there's still a little bit of lag. But what you use it for the most, it's really awesome at, and that's framing your shot.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. It helps frame that shot.
What's our friend over DJI, Mr. Wang? What's Mr. Wang's full name?
Frank.
Frank Wang. I bet you tomorrow afternoon he'll have a Hero 9 sitting on his desk in his office in China, and he's going to be open up. And if he's going to be calling his engineers up, hey, you guys we need this, and then he's going to have a bullet list for them. This is things you need to do in the next Osmo action.
That's exactly what they do.
He's going to know, okay, this is where we need to catch up.
And I'm hoping maybe one of these days. And I know you guys touched on this last night, and I kind of want to close with it. I know, Marcus, go ahead and say something. And then
I just wanted to make the point that one of the best things that I ever did with the Hero 8 was add this media mod, because it has really good sound as it is microphone, but this media mod really took it to another level. And the other thing is you've got USB-C and microphone connections on the back here. So essentially, you never even have to open up the camera. You never have to take it out of the cage or anything. And it's just a good addition, and it works well. That was just a point that I wanted to make.
Thanks for showing us that, Marcus.
Fly Zone Drone had a question for you, Marcus. What kind of video editing software do you use?
Yep, I'm answering him right now. Magic's Movie Edit Pro.
Okay.
No wonder Marcus's video is so good. He's got the magic in there.
You got the magic touch. Ooh.
So I think what this Magic's Movie Edit Pro, if you follow its lineage, it evolved from the Sony Vegas editing software that I always heard a lot of people talking about a while back, and I don't know how this, and Magic's is a German company, how they got that from Sony or whatever, but anyway, that's kind of the lineage of that particular editing software.
Well, the last thing that I want to finish up with is this, and I know you guys talked about this last night. You know what I think would really give DJI that competition that would really up the game? If GoPro brought the Karma back. And I know you guys talked about this last night, and I can't help but think with what Ron just said, I think it would kind of be a game changer for them. Because unfortunately, I know they cut all their staff, got rid of all their people. They had the incredible, unfortunate issues with the battery, falling out of it in flight and all that stuff. But if they could do that on that platform, think about it, okay? Think about the whole concept of it, and each year you can upgrade the camera on the platform, okay? Well, who else has a drone like that?
Well, I would give them one tip, though, Bill, if they ever do that, don't call that new drone the Karma. Come up with a new name.
That would be bad karma, okay?
Yeah. Bill, maybe it's not too bad that they let go all the staff and built the old Karma.
That's
true. Start with a new team.
That's true. Maybe they could hire some of the good ones out there to do that. Ron, we're going to have you on. We're going to take a rain check on. I know we want to kind of pick your brain about tips for because you are and Marcus and I are in wholehearted agreement with this. You are the Jedi Master of sunsets and sunrises. And we kind of want to get you back sometime to pick your brain about that, to see about getting some tips out there that we can pass on to the drone community in doing that. I mean, Ron has that magic touch. I don't know if he uses that same software, but he has the magic touch when it comes to that. There's absolutely, Marcus and I say we have no question about that.
And some of it's, I live in this real picturesque place here. It's like you almost can't get a bad shot where I live down here.
I know. It's like
City too. So that does play a large part. If I lived in, I don't know, the middle in the middle of Timbuktu, you wouldn't be saying that.
Well, it's like for me, okay, I love Russ from 51 Drones, but he lives in North Dakota. So it's like where do you get great shots from? it's kind of, and he does. He manages to get out and get some great things. So you got to travel. For you, it's like you literally walk outside your front door and you're getting something. I literally can walk outside my back door and get that kind of stuff. So, but no, I want to thank everybody for an absolutely great show. I hope you guys had a great. I hope those of you, and again, congratulations to Michael Wright, for winning that Mavic 2 Pro. He's, that's just it's a thrill to me personally because we all know you, Michael.
Very deserving.
We're just so happy for you, and we're also happy for our very own Marcus Crawford winning a Yeti tumbler, in spin up. So we have some of that good. We have some of the good karma in around here.
Maybe Michael Roy will trade with Marcus.
It's a deal, Michael. It's a deal.
Marcus may throw in an old GoPro along with it.
Or you know what? I have something that would cinch the deal. The golden egg.
Oh, there you go.
That would cinch the deal. So, Marcus, closing thoughts.
Nothing. We're still dealing with a lot of stuff in the country now. We touched on hurricanes, fires in the western United States here, all this COVID-19 thing. People have a lot of issues. People are stressed out. What I'm going to tell you to do is be kind to your neighbor. Somebody flames you on the internet or something, just let it go. Ignore it. Let's all focus on being nice to each other and taking care of each other, and we'll get through all this stuff.
Thanks for those thoughts, Marcus. And I'm going to do shameless promotion here. Marcus made the great, spoke for me here. Don't forget, right after this show, we got the Philly and Ron show coming up over at Philly Drone Life's channel on YouTube. And then tomorrow night, don't forget about Bill Thomas and the gang over at Coast to Coast Drones Drone Therapy Show at 8:30 p.m. I think Bill's back from the lake now, so she's back in the usual studio. And don't forget to tune in for Marcus and that fun bunch over in Europe, the International Drone Seekers, Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I won't pump my own show. I'll let somebody else do that.
Well, we'll pump. Drone Nation is on Monday nights at 9:00 with these two fine gentlemen. So make sure you check it. This week's episode was great. Had Johnny Drone Flyer on it. Johnny Alfonso. Johnny's a great member of the drone community. And look at Ron. Ron and Marcus got their mugs. Okay, the second edition of Build a Drone Reviewer mugs. And I know. Many of you have gotten, those of you who have won your prizes. I know Ray Kelly has gotten his, and he's worn it in the video, which is fantastic. I think that's awesome. These guys have theirs. I'm getting mugs out. There's some other ones. I know, Rick Smith, Kelly Shores, Ken Dono, Tom Ivins. I know I owe you guys mugs. I got them all ready to go. I finally got boxes to ship them in. We're going to get them out this week, so you guys will get them.
More prizes at Spin Up.
More prizes at Spin Up. And for
you can get a Mavic 2 Pro if you're lucky.
A couple of points here. Spin Up was great this year, guys. Kelly, you did an outstanding job. And I loved your emceeing, okay? And I got to say this. That highlight of the emceeing for me was Ken with the puppet, okay? Ken Dono with that puppet. That was golden, okay? That was just absolutely golden. The interaction, the banter between everybody was fantastic. So that was really well done. I can't say enough about that.
Well, can we get a puppet for this show someday?
We might. We just might. We could do something like that. The other thing I want to say is this, and I want to piggyback on what Marcus said. This country and this world is going through a lot of crap right now. And I mean, it's coming at us left and right. We had, we're getting hit with all these storms right now, fires out on the West Coast, COVID-19 is going on right now. And unfortunately, flu season is coming up. That's not going to go away. We also have a very turbulent election coming up here in the United States. And, it won't kill you to be kind, okay? And I learned a lesson the other day on that on Facebook, and I apologize to everybody out there on that. I put something that I cut and pasted, and I shouldn't have, and that was insensitive of me. And I apologize for that. And I apologize to any of you if any of you had taken offense to that. That was not my intent. Let's all try to live peaceably with one another. I mean, that's what we're here for. And we're here to talk about the greatest hobby that we all know of is flying drones. So with all that being said, guys, keep it real, and it's a great day to fly.